Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Why the Military panel discussion. We're going to get started today with our Navy. We have a group of panelists here that's going to that's very excited to talk to you all about why they decided to go into the Navy. So I'm just going to do a very quick introduction of names, and then each person, after you hear your name, you can let us know why did you decide to go into the service. So let's start off with Miss Jennifer Foxworthy.
Good morning. The reason why that I went into the Navy is I grew up in a poverty environment, and I knew in 10th grade, by 10th grade, that I could not afford to go into college like the rest of my classmates. So I had made the decision to join the delayed entry program until I graduated high school. So I knew in 10th grade that I wanted to leave the environment that I was in and become independent and make something of myself.
Wow, so you knew kind of early on by 10th grade, this is something that would be a good opportunity for you to really change your environment and create some new opportunities for yourself.
Absolutely. I knew that if I had stayed in my hometown, it's not small, but it's not big. Everybody knows who you are, and the neighborhoods wasn't necessarily conducive. And I knew that I had the potential to do great and amazing things. And sometimes, like planting a seed, you have to shift that environment. And praise God, I knew that early on. So yeah, I have family members that were in the military and served. And so I wanted to follow along in their footsteps if college wasn't a viable option economically for me at that time.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing, Ms. Foxworthy. I'm going to now introduce Ms. Diotha Sweat.
Good morning. My story is similar to Jennifer's. I knew in high school that I needed to get out of my hometown as well. College was, I was actually preparing for college, and around my junior year of high school, I realized that I was just a little exhausted where school was concerned. And so I felt that my only other option was to join the military. And so at 17 years old, I also joined the delayed entry program to wait until it was time for me to go into the military. So it was a great option for me at that time frame to get me out of, again, the same story, get me out of an environment that I did not see a promising future, any opportunities for me. So it was best that I leave and and venture out and see what happens. And 24 years later, voila.
Wow, that's great. So you too were looking to change your environment, and initially you were thinking of college, but really feeling, taking a self look and say, I'm really done with school right now. This is a lot. And if I have some other opportunities, I'm going to take it and really grasping those opportunities.
Yes, I had a very good high school guidance counselor, and she had me slated to go to Morgan State University. And she was not happy with my decision to go into the military, because when I did go in, it was not a career path that most women was taking at the time. And so she did not see a future, a good future for me going in the military, and particularly in the Navy, because back then a lot of African Americans weren't going into the Navy. And so but I had to stick to my guns, and what my gut was telling me is that I needed to leave, and leave under my own terms, and that's what I did.
Oh, I love that. Listening to your own gut is so important. You had this wonderful counselor that was leading you, and even though that's not what she liked and didn't think that was the best of ideas, you listened to yourself, and it turned out to be the best thing for you. That's wonderful.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Up next, we have Mr. T.J. Hudson.
Yes, thank you, Ms. Mia, for this opportunity to be on this panel. My version of my journey into the Navy is a little slight different. I was already in school, attending the University of Alabama, but I was putting my own, paying my own way. And coming from the projects in Birmingham, Alabama, it wasn't a lot of money to be putting towards school. And so I was looking for options, viable options. And instead of turning to, the popular option of street life, I said, no, it has to be a way that I can keep moving forward without going backwards. And the military, I was actually sitting on the couch and the commercial came on for the reserves. And I went in and started investigating and found out that I could go in the military and they would pay me school money, if you will. And that's the option that I took. 22 years later, here I am, as Ms. Sweat said.
Listen to that, and they say watching TV is pointless. You took that commercial and said, you know what, that's my path. I don't want to turn to the streets, that easy option or the glamorous thing that at that time that was being portrayed. You wanted to do the right thing, and you saw that opportunity, having already been in school, but wanting to be, how do I keep paying for it? And you found the way, and it worked out great for you.
Yes, ma'am. Sure did.
Awesome. So I'm going to switch gears a little bit, and I want to talk about how being in the Navy, how do you get to serve your community while serving your country at the same time? And we're going to go ahead and kick it back over to Ms. Foxworthy to start.
How do I serve the community while I was in the Navy?
Yes.
I think the best way I could put it, I was one less negative statistic hindering society with being unwed, pregnant, abortions, so many of the negative statistics that we see, that I saw growing up. So that's how I help my community, is by reducing the recidivism and the issues that we face in the Black community of in and out of the system. So by thinking for myself, like Diotha said, having that gut feeling, seeing my potential, that's how I help the community. I was one less person that was added to the negative statistics. And that's the best answer that I could come up with while I was in the service. And then I could be an example, come back to my community as an example of, I didn't allow stereotypes. I didn't allow the environment. I didn't allow that current reality to dictate what the vision was. So I was then able to come back and be an example.
Wow, I really love that. You served your community by being the best you, by not being some negative stereotype, but rather a positive one that we don't always get the stereotypes as, but we know it to be a reality, and really wearing that and coming back as this example of what can be. Absolutely,
Mia, and I'll share this briefly with you. I had the honor to, in my hometown, York, Pennsylvania, to be the 2018 commencement speaker for my high school alma mater. So here I am in the Utz Arena, over 2,500 people, standing room only. And I'm in my master's, robe and everything, giving a commencement speech to young men and women who are about to graduate and set off into the world. That's how we do it. That's the example. And I don't care what other speaking opportunity I get, that was the cherry on top to be chosen as the commencement speaker for my high school. So that's how being an example and giving back and reducing those stereotypes.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Ms. Diotha Sweat, on to you.
Well, while serving in the military, especially in the Navy, I can't speak for the other branches, but the Navy is big on community service. And so wherever you live, while wearing the uniform, they encourage you, and sometimes they volunteer you that you will work in the community in which you live in. So as I served across the globe, I found myself helping and after school programs, helping to paint orphanages and picking up litter in certain areas and things of that nature. And so you find yourself, even though this is not my home where I'm currently living, it is my home while I'm there. And so the Navy puts that in you. And so now, even as I have retired, I have continued to do those things, is to serve in the community and give back because of the leadership training that we receive and all of the guidance and other trainings that we receive. We are a valuable asset to any community that we move into because of those skill sets that we now have received. And so again, I will steal some of Jennifer's information, is that it is an honor to go back to your school and to be able to pour into those young people that are walking the same hallways that you walk, and you understand what they're feeling because you were there and you felt those same things. And so I didn't get the honor to be the commencement speaker, but I did get to speak at a junior ROTC program that was there and to show them of where you are and where you can go is it is icing on the cake. It is a cherry on top because we didn't have that. And so now we have the opportunity to go back and show these students, this is what happens when you make good decisions for your life.
Oh, that's great. I really love the part of not only serving the community where from which you hail, but the global community as well, because you traveled and wherever you were, treating that community as yours and serving it at the same time. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And Mr. Hudson, last but certainly not least, how did the Navy help you serve?
Oh, wow. Navy became an extension of what I was already doing. I came from a household where my father is a pastor. My mother worked in nursing. She was a nurse. So giving and doing for others was already within my DNA. And I just became an extension of that in the Navy. As Ms. Sweat alluded to, you had options all the time of giving your time. As a matter of fact, it was a part of your evaluation. So that it was not only encouraged, but directed in a sense to get out and to be an image within the community. So I always found opportunities, be it with creating some. If there wasn't something that really I felt like I could marry with, I created an opportunity going into schools, and even here in St. Mary's County, I had created a program called Men of Honor within the school system here in the high school levels, where I would go in and teach life skills to the young men. So it just was an extension of myself, being out in the image, in the uniform, being the image of the Navy, giving chances and opportunities for young men and women of color to see someone that looks like them doing service out in the community. And not only that, but enjoying what they're doing. You know, sometimes we get the image, and we have the image of being a angry, angry people, but doing it with a smile on your face, happy, encouraging, enlightening, was something that I actually fed upon. It was medicine to me. So again, that's how the Navy offered me that opportunity.
So it just fed your soul. Serving was already in your blood, and what a wonderful thing that it was baked into now your career, and even being evaluated on it. So I'm sure you got high marks on that part of your assessment.
Indeed.
And it really now being able to be that example, and with a smile on your face, serving your community and being that example for our young people is very important. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to actually sit with you, Mr. Hudson. And the question is going to be for all you, TJ, since he loves to serve. We're going to volunteer him to go first. And he's going to tell us about the growth that you experienced in the Navy, not just as a person, but the levels in which you can accelerate and become more than just, a soldier, so to speak.
Oh, wow. That's a very good question. I appreciate that. Um, the growth that I experienced in the Navy, first of all, I just like the rest of the panelists, I went in very young. As a matter of fact, to be honest, a little bit of my story is I tricked my mom into signing me in because I was too young to go in myself. You know, I went in being 17 years old, just at 17, actually turning 18 in boot camp, and so I was a kid, you know, very young, and going off away from home. Was the first of my siblings to have done so, and um, you know, luckily for me, I ran into some very good mentors and people to give me some guidance, and then luckily again for me that it was good guidance. They taught me on how to address my career. They taught me the terminology of acting as if. You know, if how would you act if you was in a certain rank? Start acting that rank now, so people would do what they can do to help you to accelerate to that position. So again, I developed some concepts and grew into myself, as if you will, learning because of the certain guidelines that the military instill in you from boot camp, to look out for one another, to be a part of a team, to really, without it sounding insulting, to know your place, and to understand that if someone tells you to do something, even though you don't like to do it first and then complain about it afterwards, or to get direction on it after you have done the task, so that it doesn't impact you negatively. So that type of growth happened. And how did it accelerate me within my career? Well, that happened because of the fact that I kind of set myself in a different group, a different path. And I wanted to be understood that the military is just like any other part of society. You have good within it, and you have the not so good within it. And then you always will be in a place of choice for the most part, and you get to choose who you will associate with and who you would disassociate with. You know, and it's important for you to understand that process of making choices. And that's another thing that the military does for you. It gives you a picture painted of options. So with that, that helped me into my adulthood, because like I stated, I spent more time in the military than at that point in my life than I had spent out of the military. Because again, like I said, 17 in, and at the age of 39, coming out of it, I had, was in the military more than I was out of the military. And so my whole coming of a man happened within the military. So the person that I am today, the military played a huge part in helping to mold that. So that's how I would answer that question, Ms. Mia.
Wow, that's very powerful, very sincere. That look of your growth over time, and how that connects to your ability to even be able to move up, because you have to be of a certain set of maturity and mindset to be prepared for the next level, and having those mentors in your place to make that crystal clear to you and encourage and support that sounds like it was very beneficial.
Oh, it absolutely was. And if I can, just for a moment to extend on it, it was necessary, because like I said, where I came from, there wasn't a lot of heroes. It wasn't a lot of heroes. It wasn't a lot of, I want to be like him, I want to be like her when I grow up, and to be honest, outside of my home, there was no one, and I remember I came into the military, and I'm gonna be real candid, I didn't have the best attitude, because I was coming in thinking I had to protect myself from my environment, because going into the military, I was always told, hey man, this is how it's going to be. So I went into the military with a mindset, kind of a chip on my shoulder. And what I had was one of those mentors came to me at the moment where I was not, going against the grain. And he told me, this is something he said, so you love your parents? And I said, absolutely, I love my parents. He said, well, it would be hard for one to know that, because you're away from them and you're representing them, and this is how you're representing them. And he gave me a concept. He said, if you since, because I went on to elaborate how much I love my mom and my dad. And he said, from now on, before you make a decision, why don't you make that decision as though they were standing right there next to you? And from that point on, even to the day, and I'm over 50 years old now, and some of the times when I go to make a decision, I still think back to those words that he said to me. And I make those decisions based on how would my mother or my father feel right now.
Well, that's an amazing lifelong lesson to keep. Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing. Ms. Foxworthy, I'm gonna take it over to you. Same question.
And please repeat just one more time. I was just so caught up in TJ's testimony.
Right. It was like, what are we doing again? Yes. You're going to tell us about how being in the Navy impacted your growth as a person, but also how did that allow you to grow in your career as well?
Absolutely. Being in the Navy, it allowed me to grow up. My first duty station after training was Adak, Alaska. So I was closer to Russia than I was to the mainland. And when you have that time difference, when you can't get to the family reunions and everything else, your colleagues become your family. And you learn to appreciate your biological family and friends that you're not able to see on a regular basis or communicate on a regular basis. So that's one avenue. Also, it allowed me to, I took the choices to diversify my portfolio. And when I say that, in my 21.7 years of being in the Navy, my first 4 years, I was an ocean systems tech analyst. So I detected, tracked, and localized enemy ships and submarines. Then came the opportunity where I had to make a choice. Do I want to go into sonar tech as a force conversion, or do I want to maneuver into something else? And so me being slick, because I was trying to avoid those big gray things in the water, I decided that I was going to go naval air crew. I'm like, I'm not afraid of flying. I can swim. And I spent, once I graduated air crew school in Pensacola, Florida, I found out that I was the first Black enlisted to graduate that school in probably over 10 years. And then once I got into the squadrons, here I'm an avionics technician, so I'm fixing electronics, I'm flying in the airplane. Now I'm the first in 3 different Navy squadrons based on my gender and my skin color. That's how rare I was. And so here I'm wearing a flight suit, leather jacket, looking like Tom Cruise from Top Gun. I call myself Mavrika, you know, because Goose, he gets killed in the movie. So I'm like, nobody wants to be Goose. So I was like Maverick, and I really caught a lot of people's attention. I flew combat missions in 3 different wars: Kosovo, Afghanistan, and Iraq. You know, so it shaped my mindset of my growth period and being focused and experience, you know, workplace bullying, the isolation, and how do you handle it? I could have easily, you know, did the chicken head and went off popping at the mouth when people didn't treat me the way that I wanted to. But there is a professional way to get your point across. And that's how I was able to win my colleagues over. I also earned my USMAP, which is United States is like a journeyman's type of certification. So if I wanted to, I accounted for my flight hours, my hours working on electronics. I could go to Boeing, Raytheon, and all those different airplane organizations. Instead of starting out at the bottom of the ladder, I could go to the middle with that certification. I also tapped in that I liked acting. We had a Navy chief who wrote plays, and for African American Heritage Month on the base, I would assist her and would act out, and you know, just some natural skills. Also, my motivational speaking, God started showing that opportunity, those skills, that talent in motivational speaking. And then in my last tour, I wanted to do something bigger, finish my career doing something bigger than myself. So I switched from military warfare to military welfare, and I became a certified alcohol and drug counselor, which they call SARP, Substance Abuse Rehabilitation Program Counselor. And I became certified as that. So on the outside, I could go to Walden, I could go to Crisis Center. And matter of fact, in my military career, it allowed me to earn 4 college degrees. I have an associate's in a business administration. I have a bachelor's in communications. I have a master's in management with a focus in public relations. And I just got my master's in May 2020 in social work. So all of those were fruitful. So I used my military career. I diversified my portfolio, which made me more marketable. And like TJ was saying, choices. And so when I retired, I could maneuver any way I wanted to. After 15 years of smelling exhaust from airplanes and being on top of the airplane and putting the plugs and covers on and flying and everything else, I was like, I'm not trying to do that right now. I want to pursue motivational speaking. And now I'm going in my 8th year as a professional speaker. I'm a published author. I'm dual business owner with a for-profit and a nonprofit. So I made it work. And to wrap it all up, I use my military skills in my speaking as far as self-awareness, team building, community service, being a leader of businesses and guiding my board and my board guiding me. So that's what it's all about, Mia. And that's how I made it work, and that diversifying my portfolio. And then being a substance abuse counselor, it definitely helps me with my social worker skills, because now my nonprofit, we serve those dealing with domestic violence, human trafficking, and homelessness. Addiction is involved with all 3 demographics. So how do I come alongside? So that's my answer for the question of how the Navy shaped me to what I'm doing personally and professionally.
Wow, that's an amazing story. You were Mavrika, blazing trails all over. That's amazing. I really like that your position and what you were doing is really what shaped you and your growth. It was kind of reverse of TJ, where his growth helped him get the position. You got the position and grew into something more, and was really able to use those skills even after you left this Navy to pave the path that you wanted. You had options to not start at the bottom. You can jump right into it and get going. And even beyond that, start your own businesses. And again, using those skills to be able to provide the services that you do now. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And Miss Sweat, last but certainly not least, on to you. How your growth in the field and as a person.
Well, first of all, I don't even know how to even come in after that amazing story and amazing life that my fellow shipmate has lived thus far. But I tell people I am an introvert by birth, and I am a very, very shy person. Although when I say that to folks, they really think that I'm not telling the truth. But I am living proof that when you go into the military and you allow the exposure that you receive to catapult you into what you're destined to do, I am that person. And so I went in young, like my fellow panelists have, and I went in and not knowing what to expect. And so I just know I needed to leave home. The military was the vehicle that I used to do that. And so when I got there, all I knew was what the movies told me. There was a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, a lot of running around, a lot of stuff. And so I was expecting, I'm from the inner city, so I was like, you know what, I got this. We gonna make it work. I'm gonna do my 4 years, and I'm gonna go and figure it out. And so what I did learn was that I have skill sets that are needed in not just the community but the world. I have compassion. I have the ability to help people. I have the ability to organize and network and bring folks to the table. And I was able to find those things out because the military forced me. If I would sit, I would was the person that would sit in the back of the room and just watch everybody. I was good at what I did. I could do it in my sleep, but do not put me in front of people. And so the military and as TJ said, the mentors, they see things in you, and they said, okay. And I had one particular first class say, "Do you want to just be average for the rest of your life?" And so he shared with me. He said, "Your parents gave you a name, Diotha Sweat. So there is no way that you can be average. And so you're sitting here and not living up to your full potential because you may be afraid, you may be scared." And so that kind of woke something up in me. And so then I started to venture out and do some things. And when it was time for me to go to sea, I was 9 years in. And so I didn't just want to go to any ship. I wanted to be a part of history. And so what I did was I became the first group of females that integrated the cruiser class ship. And so that is, we set the tone and the standard for that. And when it was time for me to go to sea, when I became a chief petty officer, I said, hey, I want to go to one of the hard charging assignments. And so what I did is I became the first female chief petty officer to serve on board this USS Stedham, which is DDG. And so those opportunities I would not have ever thought to do had I not had the foundation prior to, is to bringing me out of my shell and understanding that I do have a voice, that I do have something that I can contribute to society. And so now that I'm retired, and TJ and I, we do some work together, and I believe I've done some work with Jennifer, but we're trailblazers in the community. And we're trailblazers because the military gave us the skill sets. You give me a task and I'm going to see it to the end. And I will see people that I need to bring along with me that have the skill sets to help me to navigate through the processes. And so professionally, it allowed me to grow and to be able to understand that what I have and what I was created to do is something that is worthy and needed in society. And as a person, I just had learned self-confidence. I learned to be able to go into any room. I mean, any room I can go into, because just like Jennifer, I was at some point the only. That would be the only female and the only Black. And so you have to learn how to be comfortable in those environments. And so now when it's time for me to go and speak to people that I thought I would never, coming from Paterson, New Jersey, never be in the room with politicians, folks that are that are changing the world. And I'm sitting at the table and they're asking me, well, what do you think, Diotha? I never thought that. But because the Navy provided me with those skill sets and that courage to do that, now I can be the leader the community needs to move things forward. So that is how the Navy has impacted me into professionally and personally.
Oh, wow. That is truly inspiring. You guys are just amazing. These trailblazers that we have. You know, I am one, Diotha, that I would not believe that you were an introvert. I mean, I know you from wearing many different hats. And so introvert would have never been on my list of adjectives to describe you.
Yes.
And so that's something that you can gain from the Navy as far as that growth, that learning. It seems like they really take care to cultivate each individual to be the best that they can be.
So
And
if I can add one thing, so what I do a lot is because if I have to speak or if I have to appear, I am nervous beyond nervous, and so I always tell myself, remember, stay in your watch professionally, do what you're supposed to do, represent that uniform, and whatever it is, represent it like you would have done when you were in the military. So I have that I can revert back to and say, what would you have done if you were in the military wearing that uniform? And that's how I move things forward.
lovely, lovely, lasting lifetime impact. That is amazing. The Navy, yeah, after every panel, I want to change my career, and you guys are no different. So you guys talked a lot about the things that you gained while being in the service. I want to know, how did that translate into your actual education, if you received any degrees? So it's kind of a multi-part question. How long did you serve? What degrees did you gain either while in the service or afterwards? And how did that look? And Ms. Sweat, we'll start with you.
Great question, and thank you for adding this to the conversation because military people, they preach education quite a bit while you're serving in the military. And so I served 24 years. I retired June 20th, June 2010. And while I was in service, I was able to get a bachelor's degree in sociology from St. Leo University. And I also received my master's of MBA in information management from Grantham University. And I am currently enrolled in a doctorate program working at my PhD in education with a concentration in organizational leadership. So the good thing is that most of my education was paid through the military, through the Montgomery GI Bill. So a lot of it was not out of pocket. So thank you for asking that question.
And thank you for answering. Ms. Foxworthy?
Thank you, Mia. I think I mentioned, but I did 21.7 years. I always put the 0.7 on there because every single day counted. I'm like, Lord have mercy. But again, I made it work for me. All of my degrees were paid for by the military, but I also sacrificed my life for the country. So I think that it was a great exchange there. But I earned my associate's in business administration through Columbia College of Missouri. My bachelor's in communications was through, at the time, UMUC, University of Maryland University College, but now it's switched to Global Campus. My master's in management was through UMGC. And then my master's in social work was through Salisbury University. And I'm just grateful. None of it was out of pocket. And it all is useful to the professions that I am now. I knew if I'm going to be a professional motivational speaker, then I need to learn about the craft of communication. Many people just take for granted that, okay, I'm gonna come up to a podium with a microphone and I'm just gonna speak and say something. But there's a craft to it. You have to be able to engage your audience in the delivery and everything else. And then my social worker degree is to help in the nonprofit with the demographics that we serve, just in that human services, human relations arena. So all my degrees were valuable in my profession. I went at it methodically in the choices that I made. And was there a second part to your question?
No, you did a great job, and thank you for tying in how how you came to the decisions of which professions or degrees to go for. That's important as well, to not just get a degree haphazardly, but being deliberate. So thank you.
Absolutely, being deliberate with it, with your choices. If you're going to do it right and make it count for you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Mr. Hudson.
Yes, absolutely. I did about 21.7 21.7 years as well in the United States Navy. And again, because of my working in the medical field, they had a program which allowed for us, if you had a certain amount of boxes checked, you can actually challenge for certain things. And I was able to challenge for a program called a licensed vocational nurse. So I have a certificate in licensed vocational nursing. I have a bachelor's degree from the Southern Illinois University in hospital healthcare administration and management, master's degree from Walden University in clinical mental health counseling. So, again, all paid for via Uncle Sam. Which is something that a lot of people don't understand, is your education can be 100% paid for, be it a college education, trade, or certificate program. 100 free. It's free 99.
Free 99. I love that so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Hudson, for bringing that point home. Free 99. Join the service. I have one last question for you all. And I understand that Navy, that's a way of life. You're right. You wear that hat, it embodies everything that you are. And so it's a two-part question. I want to know how do you keep things balanced? Because again, our youth are going to be watching this and they're starting on these new career paths everything is overwhelming. So one, what do you say to the youth that's looking to start and how to get started, that great bit of advice, but also in how to keep a balance as they're doing so? And Diosa, I'm going to keep with you if you want to kick us off.
Okay, I didn't catch the first part. I heard the keep the balance. What was the other part?
And starting on your career path, speaking to the youth that are watching, starting on this career path, what bit of advice can you tell them that would be helpful?
So whenever I speak to young people, because young folks are a passion of mine that and I always tell them that at the end of the day, you have to make a decision that you can live with, regardless of who is in your ear. And like I shared in the very beginning, my guidance counselor, I love her to death. As a matter of fact, I still keep in contact with her, but that was her dream for me. And so you have to live your dream. And if there is a path that is that's calling you, because we all have that inner voice in us that's calling us into doing something. If that's what it is, and if people are not supporting you in it, you have to stand firm on what you know is right for you. And trust me, had I went to Morgan State University, I might have done great things, but I wouldn't have been happy with it because that was not the path that I was supposed to take. The path was to go into the United States Navy and to do the 24 years, and it led me to Maryland. Okay, that path led me to Maryland because I had no idea and no desire to be here. So because now that I'm here, I am doing things that is helping my community to move things forward. So that would be my very first. You have to stay true to who you are and what it is that you want to do in life, because if not, you will look in the rearview mirror and you will have regrets, and you do not want to live your life in regrets. Balance. Figure out what you can do, and if you can't do it, don't worry about it, because we as adults, we overload our plates and we get stressed out. And when you get stressed out, then you have attitudes, you get high blood pressure, you get sick, and all sorts of things. And so even in my 50s, I am having issues with balance. So started at a young age as to learning how to say no to certain things that do not fit in line with what you're trying to accomplish in life. It's great to help people. It is great to do things, extra things, but balance is important because Balance will allow you to get to your goals a lot quicker because you're not spending a whole lot of time doing things that are not relevant to what you're trying to achieve. So stick with number one, follow your gut. Number two is decide what you can do, and what you can't do, don't worry with it.
Perfect. I can't summarize it any better than that. Thank you. Mr. Hudson.
Well, first of all, I do appreciate what Ms. Sweat had to say. It's very valuable. I'm taking notes on it myself. The balance piece. Coming into the military, it is essential that you understand that it will require you to do just that, to balance out life and the things that come along with it. One of the things that I started to do, I started to understand is important to start living life intentionally. You know, you've moved on and you're moving on, young people I'm speaking to right now, you're moving on to that facet of life that's going to require you to be deliberate, you know, to schedule things out, to make time. You know, I have a motto that says that, my motto in life is faith, family, finances, and fun, fitness, right? So I make sure that I'm setting up time for each of those things and those types of priorities, you know. And like I said, living life intentionally, meaning that you have to be prepared in some scenarios to walk away from people and things that you may have thought last year was important, right? So, because let's say, for instance, you're thinking about going into the military. One thing you can't do is to take Southern Maryland with you. Wherever you go, there is no boot camps. There is no branch of service boot camps that's in St. Mary's County. You know, so you're going to have to get away or wherever you are, you know, be it not just in St. Mary's County, but, you know, whoever is watching this, wherever you are, unless you happen to be in one of those areas that has a boot camp, there you're going to have to go away. And don't be afraid of that. You know, in order to get the best view of the mountain, you got to get to the edge of it. You know, so again, that's one of the things to understand, and then with the balance piece, to understand that work, don't be afraid of it. You know what I mean? Work can be contagious, but it's not as dangerous as everybody try to make it out to be. You know, it is necessary. So one of the things that I had the pleasure of doing in my Navy career, I was in the medical field in the Navy, which a lot of people don't know this, and the Marines are debated, but the Marine Corps is a part of the Navy. And I got a chance as a medical representative. I served with both the Navy and the Marine Corps. So I got to see the nuances of both branches of services. And also it gave me a chance to experience a different mindset that went into those different parts of different branches of the service. And I would encourage you, if you're going to think about doing a job that's in the military, whichever branch of services you go in, look and evaluate to see what that job transitions into in the civilian world. So that if you decide, hey, this ain't for me, you've gotten those certifications that Ms. Foxworthy talked about, that you can come and transition to one of these good government jobs that are out here and work and sustain yourself, or one of these good trades. They have welding, they have construction, they have all those types of jobs that are in the military, and you get the training for free. And a lot of times the same training that the person that works, for example, there's a gentleman that works at Smedco, electrician. He got his training in the military. He said the reason why he ended up coming into the new to go to Smedco to look for that type of job is because while he was in his school, it was the school they sent him to was the same school they were sending those individuals out in the community to. So he had the same certificates and certification that they had. So it's an opportunity for you to get a balance of life while getting away from the normal everyday existence like some of your classmates and friends may be having, to experience the world, to see more of a scope, to be more well-rounded, as Ms. Fox already talked about. And again, also be able to sustain yourself and make a good living while doing that.
Great advice. I really appreciate the aspect of looking at the types of jobs and skills available in the service that translates outside, and going into that with that mindset and how beneficial that can be. That's a great piece of advice. Thank you, Mr. Hudson. And to wrap us all up, we're going to end with Ms. Foxworthy.
I would encourage anyone that's watching this video to think about their legacy, think about the big picture, because your legacy is like an inspirational blueprint for others to follow. So it's about discovering your passions, and you can't discover your passions or walk boldly in your purpose if you're sitting in your comfort zone. So that would be the one thing that I would encourage people to do, is get out of their comfort zone. And we know that the scripture in the Bible, iron sharpens iron. Hang around people who are going to uplift you and be a support system, that network, who are going to cheer you on instead of jeer you or pull you down like a crab in the barrel mentality. You can only get but so far having a victim mindset. And I think that we see that too much in our society and our culture. And our panelists are an amazing example. They could have been trapped in a victim mindset. Okay, this is my reality. This is all that I have exposed to me. And I'm just going to sit here, puff and pout and be a part of the negative statistics. But there was something more in them that they were like, no, this is not all. And I think that our students who see this video, they have to understand that their current reality is not all. So it's about understanding that legacy and making that mark on society. Are you going to be a part and represent the dream, or are you going to represent the nightmare? And then the balance part is, again, about who you surround yourself with that helps keep you humble. My son, 10 years old, he's simply amazing. He's seen mommy on stage, different stages, many people. He's seen me on television with my own television show and just all the different things that I've been able to and blessed to do. But he keeps me humble. My husband keeps me humble. He don't care. He's, Mom, what we having for dinner? I want spaghetti, or can we have fish sticks or something like that? So yeah, it's that humbleness. But again, also fostering someone who's not going to dim your light. And that's the work-life balance, is that well-being that TJ spoke of, and that gut feeling that Diothus, speaks of. Putting it all together, if anything, just glean from everything that you've heard today. Put it all together to make the best version of you. God did not make you to be ordinary. He made you to be extraordinary. Iron sharpens iron. And it's all about making your mark and creating that legacy and representing the dream. And that's how you create the total package.
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. What I hear you say, it's a lot about choice. Choosing the path of greatness versus a path of mediocrity. Choosing who you put in your life. Having people that are going to encourage you, strengthen your skill set, make you grow, as opposed to those who are going to bring you down. So that's hitting the nail on the head is an understatement. Thank you so very much, Ms. Foxworthy. And thank you all, Ms. Diothus Sweat, TJ Hudson, and Jennifer Foxworthy. This was an amazing panel. I think you have given our students a lot of things to think about, a lot of tools that you now have available to you when you're making your decisions about your future. Thank you so much.
You are very welcome. It was a blessing.
The Navy represented well today.
Yeah.
Hoorah.
Welcome to Why the Military Air Force Edition. We have here Mr. Tommy Herndon. Tommy, can you do a better job of introducing yourself and let us know why it is that you decided to serve your country?
Okay, well, my name is Tommy Herndon, actually Harold Thomas Herndon Jr. I'm a native of St. Mary's County, went to Riken High School, decided early in my career that based off of my experience with family members that I wanted to be a pilot. And I thought the best route of being a pilot was to be going to the Air Force Academy. So I went into the Air Force Academy in 1980. Oh my goodness, decided I wanted to do combat search and rescue. And so that was the fastest funnel into that career field. I'm sorry, what was the rest of the question, Mia? My apologies.
No. You actually you've answered it. So it sounds like that you were interested in initially getting into the service because you wanted to be a pilot. You had some family influence, and so you've seen a path through the Air Force that was going to lead you there. And once you were there, you discovered that maybe you wanted to be involved into the search and rescue side of things. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I did full career, 22 years in the Air Force before I retired in 2005 or 2006, excuse me, and came back to St. Mary's County to work with my father's company.
And so that military experience sounds like it also prepared you for your future career as well.
Yes, ma'am.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you share with us how were you able to serve your community while being in the service? What were some of the things that you had the opportunity to do?
Well, part of the career field as far as doing search and rescue was a lot of the missions that I did were more related to civilian rescues than they were military rescues. So we would get involved with medical issues like hurricanes and other types of civil rescues and things along those lines, especially because I spent most of my time overseas. So hurricanes, earthquakes, different kinds of rescues overseas as far as stranded boats and I'm sorry, and all, excuse me, a little nervous here. So that was part of, doing things for the civilian community, orphanages, we were still like a lot of community involvement while I was in the military.
So it sounds like that you had a very robust time being able to serve the community in your role. A lot of those search and rescues wasn't for fellow people that were serving, but actually the civilians, and really being able to be there for them, not only here in the States, but it sounds like you had an opportunity to travel as well and help people in disaster zones such as hurricanes and things of that nature.
That's correct.
That's very, very, I mean, that's wonderful. We really thank you for, really committing yourself to such a thing, because I know I can't jump out of anybody's plane to go help anybody or fly one. So we definitely need people like you. So we much appreciate what it is that you do, or did, I should say. And so speaking of what you did, I know that one of the things that people get to experience when they're going into the service is growth. You go in from an early age and you kind of grow up while you're there. So can you kind of paint a picture for us, like how did you get into the service and the young man that you were when you started, and how you grew within that while you were there?
Well, like I mentioned before, one of my heroes, I should say, as far as my life and influencing how I decided to move forward was my uncle. He was a colonel in the Army, and he did medevac in the Army and flew in Vietnam. And a lot of the stories that he dealt with, some of the challenges he dealt with as a Black aviator, were very inspirational to me. And so my concern, I really wanted to do the helping people. So part of his influence was affected. When you go into the Air Force Academy, you don't know if you're going to be a pilot right off the bat. You inspired that, but there's still a lot of challenges to go through while you're at the academy before you're allowed to go to pilot training and get your wings. So it wasn't until my sophomore year at the academy I finally decided that this is what the career path I wanted to pursue. And so that's what my goals were when I graduated from the academy, was to go and do helicopter training as opposed to fixed wing training. The growth was you had to decide which assignment that you wanted to pursue right out when you graduated, in order for you to grow as far as that career field was concerned. And so I decided to do overseas immediately, and my first assignment was in Korea, and it was a very challenging environment. I spent a lot of time, fell in love with the country, fell in love with the people, and decided to spend most of my career in that arena. And that's where my skills grew to my next challenge, which is going to be in Iceland. And I flew in Iceland, a very difficult flying area there. And again, continued to grow. Spent a lot of time in the cockpit, more than my counterparts, before I decided to grow within my career field, being a pilot and going on to be an instructor pilot, and eventually to be an evaluator pilot, and also to be one of the chief pilots as far as standards in the Pacific area. And I'm not sure what else to say as far as that's concerned. I had a lot of rescues under my belt, a lot of civilian rescues accredited to me during my career, and also a few military rescues of rescuing pilots that went down during training exercises and mass casualty exercises, and growing within not just the Air Force, but also doing training exercises with the Navy and the Army and Marine Corps, not just for the United States of America, but also for the Korean military, Japanese military, Singapore, the Philippines, along those lines.
Wow. So it sounds like that your journey was a long one. A lot of people come in and they want to be a pilot, but it's not that clear cut. You have to, sounds like, one, make decisions up front, how your career is going, what path your career is going to take, and then really embracing each step. It sounds like that you went above and beyond and got more hours in the cockpit than your fellow classmates, and that helped you to excel through the ranks, as far as being just a student, to the pilot, to the teacher, to the evaluator, then overseeing everything. So it sounds like you really did have a wonderful journey of growth throughout that career of yours, and really being able to interact on an international level, I'm sure helped shape you in your future career as well.
That's correct. That's correct.
Awesome. Awesome. So Tommy, thinking about how delicate it is to balance your professional career and also having a personal life of your own, what type of advice or can you share with the students that are watching? How can they get some balance with their work and their professional life? I mean, their private life.
Well, part of that balance for me is what I do, not only in the job, but what I do on the outside. Being involved with the NAACP. And my real big passion is being involved with the East Coast chapter of the Tuskegee Airmen Incorporated. I've attributed a lot of my career to the example my uncle has given me as far as my military side, but I realized even going further back that he wouldn't have had his career and I wouldn't have my career if it wasn't for some of the men that made those sacrifices during the Tuskegee Airmen way back in World War I, World War II. and how they opened the door for Black aviators. So I feel like I'm giving back right now as far as what I do for the East Coast chapter, because one of the many committees that I'm involved with is the Youth and Aviation Program, where we try to get young people between the ages of 14 and 18 involved in the aviation right off the bat, by providing them with ground training, history, and helping them move forward as far as their involvement with the getting their FAA pilot's license and stuff. And then how they take that, what we give them at the ground level, and moving on with their own personal careers, whether it be civilian aviation or whether it be going into the military or service academy.
Oh, so that's very impressive. It sounds like for you, when you talk about your personal life and what do you do outside of work, is that you serve. You mentioned your involvement with the NAACP and the Tuskegee Airmen, and really equipping children to be prepared for becoming pilots in service. So I mean, I think that's wonderful that you spend your time doing those things. And thank you so much for sharing that. Is there any last bit of advice that you could give to anyone listening today that's thinking about a career in service? I'm not in service, but in serving in the military. And what would that advice be?
Again, for me, the military became the background. You know, my real passion was going to be an aviator. A lot of people, you know, are born in military families and want to continue to serve as far as tradition of the military. For me, it was the pilot portion of it that kind of led to the military, but it became it became a circle feeding on itself because of, again, when I went into the military, and when I went to my own flying squadrons, there were not too many folks that looked like me within those flying squadrons. So then that brought on a different kind of motivation to start seeing more people of color involved, not just men, but women involved in the aviation community. So that drove what I do now as far as my volunteer work, and trying to make sure that I'm continuing the struggle, not struggles, but the challenges and the goals of getting more people involved, more people of color involved as far as the military is concerned, and more people of color involved as far as the aviation is concerned. Hope that makes sense.
Oh, absolutely. It sounds like one of the things for you that you want to make sure people understand is, you know, you have your ideas of what you want to do, but being very open and aware of the things that you're seeing that's going to move you. So you may have one idea, but based on your experiences, being open to fostering new ones based on what you're seeing, and really taking that on as a motivating factor.
Yes, ma'am. That sounds good.
So awesome. Tommy, I want to thank you so very much for taking your time out to speak with us today. I think you've shared some great information on, you know, how to get involved, and if you're thinking about getting involved, and also creating that painting that very clear picture of, you know, you may want to come in with one thing, you have one goal in mind to be a pilot, but that road is long and winding, and you can find yourself else places, but if you work hard and you put that time in, you can absolutely climb that ladder and be in charge of the whole shebang by the end of the day.